Hello and welcome back. It's been a little while since I've shared my sketchbook work with you all. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to say and what I learned on this trip, but the other morning I woke up and the weather was delightfully gloomy and rainy and Scotland-like, and I realized that it was about serendipity, and I'd love to share with you why. This is the second time I've found myself in Edinburgh during a transitional moment in my life where I'm searching for what's next, both internally and externally. I found myself in the city for the first time in 2022, a little bit heartbroken, seeking new scenery and a reclaimed sense of independence. I felt like I achieved those things on that trip, right beside my friend Katie, the trip's implementer. Fast forward 3 years, and we're both back in the city, but we feel worlds away from who we were on that inaugural trip. I'm currently rereading The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and she talks about synchronicity, aka serendipity, meaningful coincidences that suggest a deeper level of connection and wholeness in life. Cameron says, "Answered prayers are scary. They imply responsibility. You asked for it, now that you've got it, what are you going to do?" Does possibility frighten me? Absolutely. I'm definitely a victim of my own sabotage. The self-sustained belief that I'm just not good enough yet, I shouldn't waste this opportunity, I need to be ready to be perfect, lingers in the doorway of possibility. But the hard truth is, I'll always be striving for that next level, and I'll never feel ready. Something I keep reminding myself about is, if an opportunity presents itself, it means you already have the means and the tools to achieve it. How can I expect anyone else to say yes to me if I'm already telling myself no? I've been trying to keep my mind open and my self-judgment quiet while allowing myself to be pulled towards the things that call to me, even if it's just an inkling. So, when a friend calls and asks if you want to meet up in Edinburgh again, you get a plane ticket and you go. In the same vein of serendipity, back in 2022, Katie and I found ourselves in a pub one night discussing her then boyfriend Josh and whether or not I knew if he wanted to propose. I told her earnestly that I didn't know if there were any plans on Josh's part, which was true. Not 2 hours later, we're cooking dinner in our flat when I get a message. A photo of a ring with proposal plans from Josh. It was the hardest straight face I've ever had to keep, with Katie sitting across the counter from me, sipping her wine unknowingly. Their whole love story is serendipitous. In short, they met because Josh's sister Jess was in every single one of my freshman year classes in college, and we became fast friends and introduced them. But yeah, anyway. At the time, heartbroken little me dove headfirst into my friends and loving them, and it helped me to love again. These seemingly unrelated moments are like lily pads in a lake. Hopping from one to another, eventually you lose view of that first lily pad, but without it, you'd never be where you are now. Maybe we create our own meaning in these coincidental events, but maybe that's not a bad thing either because it means we're open to them. That's exactly what serendipity is, recognizing opportunities and moments where things feel aligned and rolling with it. During that first visit to Scotland, I took a solo hike up Arthur's Seat thinking maybe I could find all of the answers to my problems if I just got a higher vantage point. I didn't necessarily end up figuring it all out on that hike, but looking down on the city certainly made me feel like life was much bigger than me, and that everything and everyone was more deeply connected than we could even imagine. It's become an unofficial, official tradition for me to wake up early one day during a visit to a new place and go for a walk before the shops are open and the bustle of tourists hit the streets. And so here I was again, in the same city, hiking on the same trail, on the brink of another big life transition. The second venture up Arthur's Seat 3 years later held a familiarity. I could see my prior self, who was at the time lost and hurting, and couldn't help but smile knowing what opportunities and new doors would open for her. I suddenly then felt comforted in knowing that in this moment, a future version of myself was looking back on me feeling the same way. This time, I knew where the trail led since I'd been here before, but even so, it was slightly different from my memories. And it was windier than last time. Much, much windier. Perhaps these are the winds of change? Regardless, I did my best to embrace them. I spent some time sketching, my own quiet form of meditation, until the cold wind gnawed at my fingers to the point where I could no longer hold a pen, and then there was nothing left to do but search for a cup of coffee to warm up with. I met so many amazing people on this recent trip to Edinburgh. Most of the connections were made because I was drawing somewhere and a passerby stopped and we struck up a conversation. I loved hearing about where each person was from and what brought them to Scotland. I talked about the struggles and joys of solo traveling with a girl from Turkey, scratched the ears of a Netherlands couple's dog, Baloo, while listening to their recollection of their university days in Edinburgh, and discussed how it's never too late to change career paths with a designer from California. On a whim, I found myself wandering the Royal Mile solo one evening. I came upon an unassuming pub that seemed to call me in. With my sketchbook as an icebreaker, a stranger in the other corner came to chat, and I ended up befriending a finance bro turned whiskey connoisseur from New York. We discussed our dreams, which caught the attention of a poet and a singer, both from Adelaide, Australia, and a videographer in the Scottish military. Eventually, Katie and Josh joined us at the table, and we proceeded to drink whiskey and listen to music late into the night. The evening may have ended with a cheeky kebab. This quintessential Scottish pub night was one for the books, and us strangers only came together because I took a chance and stepped into a random pub. I felt like every single one of these moments were serendipitous, further confirming things I already believed and knew. And if nothing else, reminding me that we're all just people trying to find our paths on this earth. The past 3 years have felt like eons. I transitioned from my first full-time job in marketing to pursuing art full-time. Relationships ended and began. I found myself living between my childhood home in Colorado and Switzerland. If I've learned anything from these moments, it's to trust what's next while continuing to move forward. Some days, I find myself questioning the choices that have led me to this point in my life, but the positive interactions and the conversations I had on this trip felt like a sign that I'm on the right track. Even if you're feeling a little lost or unsure right now, maybe you're exactly where you need to be. Just don't forget to listen, and if something calls to you, go towards it. You never know where it may lead.
You start it. Hi-ho, up the hill we go, and up the stairs and up some more.